Hey everybody, happy Monday, December 4th. Good afternoon, I'm Joe Boric, this is Sports Fanatic News. Well, the Giants finally did the inevitable. They fired Ben McAdoo and also fired Jerry Reese. Jerry Reese was 88 and 72 with the team, but his legacy, as Bill Barnwell tweeted, which I agree, is very complicated. He inherited a very good team in 2007 that won the Super Bowl from the former GM, Accorsi. So it's not like he did a lot there. And in the short term, that draft was very good for the Giants. In the long term, not so much. But short term, yes. And overall, he didn't do that great because after that, the Giants' drafts were not too great. So he needs to definitely re-examine how to do things if he wants to find a new job. In terms of Ben McAdoo's season was ugly as all ugly. He was 2-10 this season. Last year was an 11-5 record, but the defense was a big part of why last year he was at 11-5, and of course Ben McAdoo, being the former offensive coordinator, was more of an offensive-minded coach, and the Giants really didn't win that much last year based on their offense, so there was concerns for many people, even though they were a favorite this year. Their offense wasn't as good as you would expect under a former offensive coordinator now as the head coach last year when they were even 11-5, and this year that came back to bite them because their defense didn't do well. McAdoo had to suspend a couple players this year in DRC and Janoris Jenkins, which had some backlash from the players because they said McAdoo in part was why those guys did their actions, but he did suspend guys based off of what he felt was right, so that's not a huge problem. And then after the embarrassing loss to the San Francisco 49ers, the ownership had to come out and make a statement that they wouldn't let him go to the end of the year. Then they rebutted that statement after he handled the Eli benching by basically saying there are no guarantees in life. So we know this was mishandled from how ownership wanted, and the GM even, Jerry Reese, who also is fired and going out the door, and like McAdoo said, can't work anymore because his key card don't work. So those guys both failed this season, and there was obviously a big disconnect in how the whole Eli Manning benching went, and now there's reports saying since Ben McAdoo's out, Eli could be back to starting next week in week 14. So maybe ownership, the reports that said that there was just a disconnect between ownership and how Eli was benched isn't even true, and ownership kind of maybe wanted him to ride it out, and then next year they either draft a guy or see how Davis Webb does as their future quarterback. Now, could Davis Webb still come in and we'll see how he does? Sure. And then Geno Smith actually didn't look too bad the other day. But on the side baseline of Eli's been your best franchise quarterback, so you might want to let a guy like that ride it out, or at least have benched him, like I said in my past videos, a little bit more nicely and not the way in which McAdoo handled it, which again seems to be a disconnect between the organization and Ben. He joined the Giants from the Packers in 2014, and he was the offensive coordinator where they had two good seasons under him as the offensive coordinator. Then his point total went down to only 15.6 this year as the head coach. They had 19.4 last season, which was still decent, and then 25 points per game in his first two seasons. So his statistics have kept dropping each season, which isn't the signs of a good coach. That means you got off to a hot start, and then you fizzled off. Chip Kelly did that in Philadelphia, and look where that's got him. He has a college football job, but I don't think that guy's ever going to be coaching in the NFL again. And obviously he wasn't well received either by the public, Ben McAdoo, and then Jerry Reese. Jerry Reese's tenure, like I said, has been very complicated. So this is a good move by the New York Giants to just wipe their ties from these two guys and just keep on going and try to rebound. And we'll see how competitive in the very non-competitive NFC East this year the Giants can be, to see if they can make the division more interesting and competitive next year and not a runaway. Again, I am definitely not a Giants fan, but I like covering the important news stories, and this is one, and it's going to be very interesting to follow along in terms of whether Eli is going to be starting next week or if it's going to be Webb or Smith, because there's been many reports out already that Eli is going to get the starting job back now with the departure of Ben McAdoo. Well, this has been a reaction to the firing, the good firing of Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo. I'm Sports Fanatic News. This is Joe Boric. It's Monday, December 4th. Everybody have a great Monday. Mondays can be rough, but remember the comedian saying Monday is fun day, and just roll with that and have a good Monday, everybody. Peace out.